Introduction. The eye they never wanted you to open. They trained you to believe that what you see is all there is. That the world begins at the skin and ends at the horizon. That perception is passive, just light and sound, entering the body. But what if you were never meant to just receive? What if you were meant to perceive, to interpret, to awaken, to remember? There is an eye inside your mind. Not poetic metaphor, biological reality. A tiny gland buried in the architecture of your brain. The pineal gland. And though science has reduced it to a timekeeper, ancient wisdom remembered something far older, far more dangerous. This was not just a gland. It was your original antenna. Your spiritual lens. Your divine receptor. They call it the third eye. But in truth, it is the first, the one that came before sight, before form, before the world taught you what was possible. It is the eye that sees without seeing. It is the sense that hears the silence. It is the part of you that still remembers who you are, even when the rest of you forgets. You were born with it open. That's the part they never told you. You came into this world knowing, sensitive, intuitive, awake. But little by little, they closed it. Not violently, but gradually. Through distractions, through repetition, through ridicule. They didn't need to lock you in a cage. They just needed to shut the window. This video isn't here to entertain you. It's here to disturb the sleep. To whisper to the part of you that has always known. There's more, not more content, not more noise, but more truth. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that rises up like a memory. Not a message, because this gland, the pineal, still lives in you, untouched, untamed. It is waiting like a buried relic beneath a collapsed temple. Not destroyed, just ignored. And the moment you remember how to find it, the illusions begin to fall. You've felt it, haven't you? That sense that something's off. That the world is louder than it should be. That the colors feel dimmer, the thoughts more scattered, the truth harder to hold. That's not brokenness. That's blindness. That's the signal trying to come. Through static. The truth is simple. The third eye is real. And the world that tried to erase it tried because it feared what would happen if you ever saw clearly again. You are not broken. You are buried, and this is your excavation, the remembering ritual. Tonight, sit alone in darkness. No music, no phone. Just you and your breath. Close your eyes and gently place your attention between your eyebrows. Don't force anything. Just notice the pressure, the warmth, the silence. Whisper to yourself, I see without eyes. I know without thought. I remember without memory. Repeat it softly. Let it vibrate through you. This is not a chant. It's a key. Lesson 1. The lie of the five senses. You've been told that what you see is truth, that what you hear is real. That touch, taste, and smell are enough to define the world. Since childhood, they handed you a map and said, this is the territory. But what if the map was wrong? What if the five senses are not gateways to truth, but guardians of illusion? You walk through life with eyes wide open, but still, something feels missing. There's a silence under the sound, a presence beneath the form. You can feel it in moments when the noise stops, when the wind moves through the trees a certain way, and you suddenly sense a rhythm not taught, but remembered. You see, the senses are not lies, but they are limited. They're tools refined. For survival, not for revelation. Your eyes were designed to detect light, your ears to detect vibration, your tongue, chemicals, your skin, pressure. These are beautiful instruments, but they do not show you the whole symphony. They only let you hear what your programming has labeled safe, and it was never your fault. From the moment you arrived, the world began naming things for you. That's a tree, that's red, that's music. You were trained to agree with what was already seen. Your inner vision, unfiltered, expansive, sacred, was never nurtured. In fact, it was dismissed, conditioned out of you, wrapped in the illusion that only what the group can see together is real. But perception is not a group project. It is a divine gift coded uniquely into your nervous system. You don't just see with your eyes. You interpret, you filter, you translate. Your entire world is filtered through a web of beliefs, memories, and mental agreements, most of which were never yours to begin with. The five senses? They are not portals to reality. They are translators. They convert vibration into familiarity. They shrink infinity into what you've been taught to expect. Your eyes don't see energy. They see labels. Your ears don't hear truth. They hear echoes of what society says is worth listening to. Your taste, your smell, your skin, they were never meant to define the world. They were meant to help you navigate it. But you mistook the compass for the land itself. This was not an accident. The world you live in rewards predictability. Systems need you to see what's approved, to feel only what is allowed, to respond within the boundaries of acceptable perception. If you could see differently, if you could feel the subtle, you'd become uncontrollable. You'd notice patterns in the noise, meaning in the mundane. You'd realize that everything around you is speaking, and you were simply trained not to listen, but you still can. Because even beneath the training, your body remembers how to see. You felt it before the flash of déjà vu. The gut instinct, the pull toward someone before they spoke. These were not coincidences, they were evidence. Evidence that your deeper perception is still alive, still watching, still waiting. Ancient mystics knew this. The Egyptians, the Hindus, the Taoists, the Gnostics. They all spoke of a higher eye, a sacred lens. A way of seeing not bound by form or distance. This wasn't fantasy, it was function. A recognition that beyond the five gates lies the sixth, the eye of inner truth. The third eye isn't a replacement, it's the completion. The bridge between external sensation and internal knowing, where sight meets insight, where form meets meaning. It's not about closing your eyes to the world, it's about opening another one to what the world hides beneath the surface. When the third eye awakens, you don't become blind to the physical. You simply stop being imprisoned by it. You start to notice the energy behind people's words. You feel the frequency of places. You begin to read the world instead of reacting to it. Reality becomes layered, no longer flat, but textured. No longer fixed, but fluid. A dream not to escape from, but to become lucid within. So why don't more people experience this? Because they were trained to stay horizontal. Eyes outward. Attention hijacked. Screens, sounds, tasks, more noise. The world bombards the surface so thoroughly that the deeper layers are drowned. Your attention becomes a hostage, and with it, your perception. But here's the truth they never told you. Perception is not passive. It's programmable. And that means it's reclaimable. The senses are tools, but they are not the master. You are. And when you begin to question them, not discard, but question, you step back into authorship. You begin to decode the illusion, not live within it. You begin to sense what cannot be seen. And most importantly, you begin to trust what cannot be explained. You were never blind. You were hypnotized. And now you begin to wake. Perception reversal. Tonight, choose any everyday object, a glass of water, a leaf, a candle flame. Sit with it in silence. Let your eyes rest around it, not on it. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. Breathe deeply. Then open them again, but this time soften your gaze. Ask, what am I not seeing? Let the object speak in silence. Feel it. Imagine its story, its vibration, its presence. Let it become more than a thing. Let it become a symbol. This is perception reversal. The art of feeling through the form. Repeat daily. You are rewiring your senses to serve the soul. Lesson 2. The pineal gland, Anatomy of awareness. Deep in the sacred center of your brain lies a key so small, you'd miss it if you weren't looking. Not much larger than a grain of rice. Hidden, ancient, and unassuming. Yet this single organ holds the potential to unravel your entire perception of reality. Not metaphorically, biologically. You carry within you a secret, the pineal gland. You've heard whispers of it, haven't you? Maybe a symbol etched into temple walls. Maybe a phrase spoken in yoga class. Maybe a quiet question late at night when the noise faded and something inside you stirred. Is there more? The answer is yes. And the path begins here. The pineal gland is not a myth. It is not spiritual fiction or New Age decoration. It is an anatomical fact. A small, pinnacle-shaped structure nestled between the two hemispheres of your brain, resting near the center of your head, exactly where the ancients pointed when they spoke of the third eye. But they weren't speaking symbolically. They were describing a truth so potent, it terrified those who built systems to control perception. Because the pineal gland is not just part of your biology, it is your antenna, your tuning fork, your original interface with subtle reality. While your outer eyes decode reflected light, your inner eye perceives vibration, pattern, meaning, the unspoken architecture of existence. Science calls it a regulator of circadian rhythms, a melatonin producer, a leftover mystery from evolution's deeper caverns. But that is only part of the story, and perhaps the least interesting part. What they don't teach in textbooks is what mystics, prophets, and seers have known for thousands of years, that this gland doesn't just manage your sleep. It manages your sight. Not your visual sight, but your vision. The Egyptians called it the Eye of Horus. They painted it inside the tombs of pharaohs and carved it into the crowns of gods. They believed it was the gateway between the realms, the bridge between the living and the divine. In India, it is the Ajna chakra, the center of insight. In esoteric Christianity, it is the lamp of the body, the eye that, when single, fills your whole being with light. And even in the West, it was once revered. René Descartes, the philosopher-scientist, who laid the groundwork for modern rationalism, called the pineal gland the seat of the soul. He believed it to be the place where thought meets spirit, where intention shapes flesh. But something changed. As science became industry, and knowledge was sliced into parts, the soul was cut away from the body. The pineal was reduced to a curiosity. Its secrets were filed away under unknown function. And what could not be explained was quietly ignored. But here is what they did not erase: your experience. Have you ever felt that sudden pressure in the center of your forehead? That pulsing, when you close your eyes and fall into silence? That sensation of being watched when no one is there? Or the overwhelming insight that arrives without thought? That is your pineal gland responding. Not to logic, to light, to vibration. To you. You see, the pineal gland is photoreceptive. It has cells nearly identical to those in your retina. It responds not only to sunlight, but to darkness. It thrives in stillness. And more mysteriously, it is surrounded by fluid, the same cerebrospinal fluid that bathes your entire nervous system. A conductor, a medium, a signal. And when you begin to sit in silence, when you close your eyes not to sleep, but to enter, this gland begins to stir. It hums, it activates. It shifts your awareness from horizontal to vertical. And what was once invisible becomes visible, not with your outer vision, but with something older, something sacred. Something that remembers what the world taught you to forget. When this gland is alive, you don't just observe the world, you feel its signature. You understand without reason. You receive insights beyond experience. This is why it's feared. Because a population whose pineal glands are open cannot be manipulated. They don't follow blindly. They see too clearly. This is not mysticism. This is design. Your biology was built for this. And yet, it has been suppressed, attacked, polluted. not just chemically, but psychologically. Through fluoride in water, artificial lighting, electromagnetic fields, processed foods, and most insidiously, disbelief. Because the fastest way to close an eye is to convince someone it isn't real. But here you are watching, wondering, remembering, and that means your gland is not dormant. It is dormant only in those who forget. It does not decay. It waits. And once it begins to wake, the world will never look the same. You'll start noticing the space between moments, the feeling behind someone's words, the hum of synchronicity pulsing through the day. It's not magic, it's perception. It's what happens when the receiver is finely tuned. So what now? Now you begin to listen. Not with ears, but with stillness. You learn to feel the presence of this gland, not abstractly, but as a real living sensation, a pressure, a point of attention, a seat of knowing. Because awakening your third eye doesn't begin with fantasy. It begins with focus, with turning inward, with remembering that you are not just a witness to reality, you are a transmitter. And the pineal gland is your dial. Feeling the signal. Find a quiet place. Sit upright. Let your spine rise tall like a column of light. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly, deeply. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Now, bring your attention to the center of your forehead. Don't imagine anything. Just notice. Is there warmth? A pulse? A subtle tension? If not, simply remain still. It may take time. Breathe, feel. Wait. Then, place your awareness slightly deeper into the middle of your brain. Behind the eyes, above the brainstem. Imagine it as a small, luminous orb radiating a quiet hum. Stay with this image. Stay with the feeling. Whisper to yourself, I am ready to receive. I am ready to remember. I am ready to see. Repeat this each morning or night. It is not about force. It is about permission. The eye opens when trust replaces tension. When silence becomes signal. Lesson 3. Fluoride, frequencies, and the war on sight. You were never taught that your perception could be stolen. But it can. Not with chains, not with force, but with a slow drip of interference so subtle, you wouldn't even notice it. Until one day you stop seeing altogether, not with your eyes, but with your soul. You've been told the third eye is nonsense. That awakening is wishful thinking. That intuition is imagination and inner sight is delusion. But ask yourself, why do they mock what they claim doesn't matter? Why do they fear what they say isn't real? Because perception is power. And if your perception is limited, if you only see what they show you, then control becomes effortless. They no longer need walls. They need only suggestion. They don't need to silence your voice. They need only distort your signal. And it begins with the body. Your pineal gland, that divine receiver of subtle frequencies, is under constant attack. Not with bullets. With fluoride. You've heard the word. It sounds helpful, clean, clinical. They add it to your water for your teeth. They package it as protection. But the truth is more bitter than anything you've swallowed. Fluoride accumulates in the pineal gland more than almost any other place in the body. It doesn't nourish it. It calcifies it. It crusts it over with deposits that act like spiritual cement. Think of your pineal gland like a crystal antenna meant to vibrate, to resonate, to receive. Now imagine coating that crystal in concrete. Imagine submerging it in noise and forgetting it was ever supposed to ring. That's not metaphor. That's modern living. Scientific studies quietly buried have shown how prolonged fluoride exposure leads to the hardening of pineal tissue, and with it, a numbing of the sixth sense. This isn't conspiracy. This is chemistry. But they will never put that on a toothpaste label. Yet fluoride is only the first layer of war. The second is frequency. You live in a sea of invisible waves. Wi-Fi signals, Bluetooth devices, cell towers. 5G beams all pressing in on your nervous system like 1,000 whispers you were never meant to hear. The pineal gland is electromagnetically sensitive. It responds to natural rhythms like the Earth's own heartbeat, the Schumann resonance. But when bombarded with artificial waves, it loses coherence. It starts misfiring. It forgets how to listen. You may have felt it: restlessness at night, racing thoughts in quiet rooms, a background hum you can't explain. That's not your mind. That's your biology being pulled out of tune. And your pineal gland? It's the instrument being detuned. Slowly and deliberately. Next comes the food. Not nourishment. Stimulation. Additives. Preservatives. Synthetic dyes. The majority of what you consume in the modern world is designed not to support clarity, but to fog it. High fructose, hydrogenated oils. Dyes labeled with numbers and letters. None of it serves your awakening. It sedates the body, dulls the mind, and weakens your internal compass. This is not a bug in the system. This is the system, because a clear mind asks questions. A vibrant spirit sees patterns. A clean inner world does not comply out of fear. So what do? They give you routines. They give you artificial highs. They keep you busy, distracted, addicted. And all the while, the very center of your higher perception is hardening, quietly dying behind your forehead. But here's the truth they never expected you to rediscover. This war is not over. The pineal gland may be buried, but it is not broken. It is not dead. It is dormant, waiting for the day you stop feeding the illusion and start cleansing the lens. You do not have to be perfect. You have to be aware, because once you see the mechanisms of suppression, you begin to disarm them. The signal becomes clearer. The static begins to fade. You begin to wake up not as a victim, but as a witness. You begin to see what they worked so hard to hide. The 3-day third eye detox. This is not a cleanse of vanity. It's a ritual of clarity, a sacred pause. 3 days to reset the signal, to begin washing away the layers of interference and invite your inner sight to surface again. Day 1. Water and awareness. Switch to pure water only. Spring, filtered, fluoride-free. Every sip is a reminder. I clear the channel. Avoid tap water entirely. Read the label. Question the source. Take a silent walk. As you move, repeat internally, I am cleansing my perception. Let the affirmation charge each step. Day 2. Frequency and stillness. Turn off all wireless signals for 1 hour. Phone on airplane mode. No screens. Just silence. Sit facing the sunrise or open sky. Let natural light touch your face. Close your eyes. Breathe into your forehead. Imagine golden threads untangling inside your mind. Whisper, I return to resonance. Feel the silence not as emptiness, but as a song you're beginning to hear. Day 3. Food and intention. Eat only whole foods. No processed ingredients, no caffeine, no sugar, no dyes. Before each bite, pause, feel. Ask your body, does this serve clarity? End the day with a candle. Sit before it. Watch the flame. Let it reflect your own inner fire. Place your palm over your third eye. Breathe. Say aloud, this sight was never lost. It was only waiting. This is the beginning, not of rebellion, but remembrance. You do not need to escape the world. You need to see it clearly. Because once you do, the illusion no longer works. The noise no longer drowns you. The control no longer holds. The war on sight was never just external. It was always about belief, and belief can be rewritten. Lesson 4. The psychology of suppression. They didn't need to burn the scrolls. They only had to teach you to laugh at them. Because the greatest prison is not built of walls or locks. It is built of ridicule, subtle, silent, viral. A whisper in the classroom, a smirk in a conversation, a headline mocking the sacred. That is how they suppressed your third eye. Not with poison alone, but with programming, emotional programming. Psychological chains wrapped in the illusion of intelligence. We're not just taught what to think. You were taught what not to believe. They drew a line between logic and feeling, and told you the former was strength while the latter was weakness. They told you the real world was hard and measurable, while the invisible was soft and foolish. You learn not just to ignore your intuition, but to doubt it, to be embarrassed by it, to apologize for your own inner knowing. They didn't have to ban mysticism. They made you police it within yourself. Do you see? This wasn't suppression with force. It was suppression with culture, with repetition, with carefully manufactured norms. From a young age, you were told what was real and what was imagined. But who decides the line? Who benefits when your perception shrinks? A system that cannot control the awakened. Must discredit awakening. So they engineered disbelief. They turned intuition into comedy, spirituality into superstition, inner vision into delusion. And they did it brilliantly, not through argument, but through ridicule, because ridicule is the ultimate weapon. It shuts down inquiry before it begins. It makes people afraid to even wonder. Think about it. Have you ever hesitated to speak a truth you felt because you knew the room wouldn't take you seriously? That hesitation, familiar, sharp, quiet, is the echo of your training. A lifetime of learning that your deepest self was too wild, too mystical, too unprovable to be valid. And so, like so many, you buried it. You chose silence over laughter, doubt over knowing, agreement over sovereignty. But what if I told you that the voice you silenced was never wrong? That your inner vision wasn't mistaken, it was inconvenient. Inconvenient for a world built on the outer. Inconvenient for systems built on compliance. Because a person who trusts their inner compass becomes impossible to herd. They become their own source. They don't need the narrative. They don't need permission. That is why the psychology of suppression runs so deep. It is not about fluoride. It is not about food. It is about belief. If they can convince you to disown your own knowing, they no longer need to censor you. You'll do it yourself. And now you begin to see, this isn't just a spiritual crisis. This is an identity crisis. You have been taught that intelligence means remembering, that worth means agreement, that value means credentials. But wisdom is not memorized, truth is not certified, and clarity has never belonged to those who comply. The third eye doesn't require intellect, it requires trust. Trust in your signal. Trust in your resonance. Trust in your energy. And if you've forgotten how to trust that inner voice, it's not your fault. It was conditioned out of you. But conditioning can be undone. And the most dangerous act you can perform in a world of illusions is to trust what you feel over what you're told. That's why now you must begin again. You must unlearn the smirk. You must challenge the silence. You must reclaim the authority. You hand it away for safety, because what they call mystical is simply the forgotten half of reality. Your feelings are not fluff. They are feedback. Your intuition is not irrational. It is immediate intelligence. The body does not lie only. The voice in your head, taught to echo the world, does that. And every time you feel something that contradicts what you've been told, every time your body tightens, your chest sinks, your skin bristles, you are being guided, not away from reality, but into it. This is the language of the third eye. It does not shout. It does not argue. It knows. The three-truth method, reclaiming inner authority. This is not theory. This is a practice. Tonight or at dawn, find a silent place. Sit in stillness, close your eyes, and bring to mind something in your life that feels off. A person, a plan, a story you've been told. Now ask yourself 3 simple questions. Intuition. Do I know something here that I'm not allowing myself to admit? Let the answer rise from your body, not your logic, resonance, When I hear this truth or this lie, does my body soften or tighten? Truth feels light. Lies feel heavy. Pay attention. Energy. What happens to my energy when I believe this? Does it expand, contract, flicker, freeze? The third eye does not respond to facts. It responds to frequency. If all three point in the same direction, you know what to do. You do not need evidence to trust your inner current. The proof is in the presence, the shift, the clarity, the breath. Repeat this method every time doubt creeps in. Every time the world hands you a truth that doesn't fit your soul. You are not rebuilding belief. You are removing interference. They taught you to laugh at yourself so they wouldn't have to silence you. But you are not here to be silent. You are here to see. And the moment you stop apologizing for what you feel, the moment you stop second-guessing your knowing, that's when the spell begins to break. You were never too sensitive. You were too awake in a world that was asleep. And now, you remember. Lesson 5. DMT, the molecule of perception. There is a molecule inside you that can show you the face of God. Not a metaphor, a molecule. A chemical messenger buried in your biology, older than science, more sacred than any scripture, and more transformative than any sermon. They call it dimethyltryptamine. But names don't do it justice, because what it does cannot be explained, only experienced. Some call it the spirit molecule. Others call it the ladder to heaven, the gate between worlds, the fingerprint of the divine. But what you were never told is this: you already produce it, right now. In your brain, in your blood, in your breath. The temple is not out there. It is you. This molecule is not a myth. It has been measured, mapped, and marveled at. Found in plants, animals, and yes, even humans. The mystery is not whether DMT exists. The mystery is why it's here, and why it has been so deeply buried. Let's go back, far back, to the shamans of the Amazon, drinking ayahuasca beneath the stars. To the African tribes, inhaling sacred snuff while the ancestors whispered through wind. To the yogis in the caves of the Himalayas, breathing into stillness until the veil dissolved. They all touched the same doorway. They all glimpsed the same truth. Reality is not fixed, it is fluid. And DMT was the key. But here's the twist. They didn't see DMT as an escape. They saw it as a teacher, a mirror, a translator between dimensions. Because DMT doesn't take you anywhere new. It reveals what's already here, but hidden. The patterns behind the people, the geometry inside the breath, the language behind the symbols. It peels back the veil. And in doing so, it doesn't show you something foreign. It shows you something familiar. You remember. Now science, dragging its feet behind the mystics, has begun to catch up. In lab rats in near-death states, they found evidence that DMT may surge from the pineal gland, the very gland ancient wisdom called the third eye. Coincidence? Or confirmation of what the sages always knew? Your pineal gland may be the bridge, and DMT, the traveler. But here's the part that changes everything. You don't need to ingest it. You are the source. The technology is already built into your design. DMT is believed to be produced in high volumes during mystical states, deep meditation, lucid dreaming, childbirth, death, even silence. That means your breath, your focus, your stillness. These are not just disciplines. They are activators. This changes everything. Because once you understand that the mystical experience is coded inside your flesh, you stop chasing and start remembering. Your third eye is not a telescope to look outward. It is a womb of light to turn inward. But why has this been ridiculed, criminalized, reduced to nonsense? Because perception is freedom. And a population that sees clearly cannot be controlled. DMT does not simply hallucinate. It reveals. It shows you that your reality is layered, that your thoughts are frequencies, that your boundaries are illusions, that your soul is not confined to your skin. And when that truth is seen, not believed, but felt, the whole system begins to tremble. The system of fear, the system of consumption, the system of separation. Because all of it depends on your amnesia. So they taught you to fear what you could feel, to dismiss the dream, to mock the mystery. But deep in the night, when the world falls silent, your soul still remembers how to fly. You felt it, haven't you? That one dream that was too real. That flash of color behind closed eyes. That waking breath that felt like something else was breathing with you. These were not anomalies. They were signals, echoes from the deeper you. And DMT was the ink that printed them on your mind. So how do you awaken it naturally? You do what the ancients did. You align breath with intent. You still the waters. You become the womb again. You learn to slip between seconds without leaving your body. You become a lucid dreamer. Not just at night, but in life. Because you are not here to escape. You are here to expand. The DMT activation practice, this is not a shortcut. It is a remembering. 1. Dream journaling each morning, before you move, before you check the world. Pause. Write down everything you remember from your dreams. Even fragments, especially symbols. This anchors your subconscious to your waking self. Over time, the dreams will respond. They will sharpen, extend, speak. Ask before sleep, show me what I've forgotten. Let your dreams become scripture. 2. Breath-induced trance, night practice. Sit or lie down in darkness. Inhale through the nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 8 seconds. Repeat for 11 cycles. Then, soften. Let the breath find you. Now place your awareness behind your forehead, deep inside the skull where the pineal rests. Imagine a violet blue light pulsing softly there, like a heart remembering its rhythm. Say within, I open not to fantasy but to truth. Remain still, observe, feel. You may sense warmth, pressure, flickers of imagery. This is not hallucination. This is reception. You are not going anywhere. You are arriving to the full spectrum of your design. You are not a seeker. You are a revealer. And the substance that unveils it all is not foreign. It is you. DMT was never a drug. It was a doorway. And now, you hold the key. Lesson 6. Light, sound, and stillness. Ancient technologies. The ancients didn't have Wi-Fi. They didn't have electricity. But they had light. They had sound. They had stillness. And they knew how to use them, not for entertainment, but for elevation. These were not superstitions. They were technologies. Not built from wires, but woven into the body, the earth, and the sky. You've been trained to look outside for power. But true power never arrives in noise. It arrives in frequency, in rhythm, in silence, and long before anyone spoke of third eyes or activation. Ancient cultures all over the world were doing exactly that, through light, through sound, through stillness. Let's begin with the most primal technology of all, light. Your pineal gland is not just spiritual. It is photosensitive. It responds to sunlight, particularly the golden glow of morning and the fading light of dusk. This is not a poetic coincidence. It's a key, a natural calibration signal, embedded in the sky. The ancient Egyptians rose with the sun and aligned their temples to its path. The yogis of India faced east at dawn, chanting mantras to draw in the light. The Maya timed rituals to the solar equinox. Why? Because they knew the truth. The light you see is not just illumination. It's information. Sunlight at sunrise contains a unique spectrum, a full band frequency with less blue and more infrared. And when this light enters your closed eyelids, it travels to the pineal gland through the optic nerves, not to stimulate sight, but to awaken signal. It tells the gland, you're still part of the cosmos. It aligns your inner rhythm with the rhythm of the sky. And what happens when you miss that light? your inner clock drifts. Your hormones unravel. Your third eye begins to dim. Not because it is broken, but because it is disconnected from the source. Next, we turn to sound. You've been told sound is for music. But the ancients knew sound is for memory. It holds geometry. It carries intention. It is the architecture of invisible space. In ancient temples, they chanted, not for religion, but for resonance. They used specific tones: 432 Hz, 528 Hz, 963. J frequencies that vibrate in harmony with the human nervous system and the pineal gland. They used gongs, bowls, conch shells, flutes, and most importantly, their own voice. Because the voice is not just expression, it's tuning. And when sound is paired with breath and silence, it becomes more than music. It becomes medicine. Your pineal gland responds to vibration. When exposed to certain frequencies, it begins to pulse, to synchronize, to remember. And this memory is not intellectual, it's energetic. It doesn't make sense. It feels true. Modern science calls it brainwave entrainment. But the mystics knew it without microscopes. They used sound to align the body, to open the mind, and to awaken the sacred eye within. Now, the final and most misunderstood technology: stillness. You live in a world terrified of silence. Every moment must be filled. Every pause must be productive. But stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is entry. When you go silent, you don't disconnect, you reconnect. You step beneath the noise. You find the pulse underneath perception. And it is in that stillness that the third eye listens best. The pineal gland doesn't respond to chaos. It awakens in coherence. Coherence between thought and breath. Between heartbeat and light. Between sound and surrender. Stillness is the secret operating system. The space where the unseen comes alive. Every mystic tradition has honored this. Buddhists in Zazen. Desert fathers in meditation. Hermeticists in trance. Even the early Christians. Be still and know. Stillness is not passive. It is perception. Purified. When light enters your eyes with reverence. When sound enters your ears with alignment. When silence enters your body like breath. Your inner eye begins to awaken. Not with fireworks, but with presence. The sonic sun morning. Ritual. This is a sacred tuning practice. Use it each morning to align the pineal gland through natural light, healing frequency, and stillness. Step 1. Greet the light. Just after waking, step outside or face a window. Close your eyes. Let the rising sun fall gently on your eyelids for 3 to 5 minutes. Breathe deeply into your third eye area. Whisper internally, I welcome the signal of the sky. I am aligned with the light. Step 2. Sound resonance. Play a frequency track, 432 Hz or 963 Hz. Headphones optional. Sit upright with your spine tall. Hum softly. Let the vibration fill your skull. Feel for resonance, not in your ears, but in your center. Step 3. Enter stillness. After 5 minutes of humming, go silent. Let the silence speak. Rest in it. Let thoughts rise and pass. Keep your awareness on the space behind the forehead, inside the mind. If you feel warmth, tingling, subtle, imagery, remain. If you feel nothing, remain anyway. Stillness teaches the eye to see again. You are not disconnected. You are just out of rhythm, and rhythm can be restored. Light is not decoration. It is intelligence. Sound is not entertainment. It is structure. Stillness is not absence. It is arrival. These are your tools. Ancient, organic, built into your biology. You do not need a device. You are the device. And when you bring these three together, sun, tone, silence, you begin to open. Not as an idea, but as a frequency, because your third eye doesn't open in theory. It opens in alignment. Lesson 7. Breath, body, and the gateway within. You were taught that the body is just a vehicle, a skin-covered machine. That consciousness floats somewhere in the mind while the body tags along imperfect, inferior, replaceable. But that was a lie, because your body is the gateway. It is not just flesh. It is frequency, architecture, a sacred chamber designed to awaken perception if you know how to use it. Your skin is a boundary between worlds. Your spine is an antenna. And your breath is the rhythm that unlocks them both. Every ancient system knew this. The yogis mapped energy through breath. The Taoists traced it through movement. The Egyptians aligned the spine with the stars. They weren't guessing. They were remembering what modern life has made us forget. The body is not the obstacle to awakening. It is the instrument. Let's begin with the breath, the first thing you ever did, and the last thing you ever will. The bridge between unconscious and conscious. Between the outer world and your inner world. You breathe thousands of times a day. But how many of those breaths are conscious? Because every breath you take is a message. And every conscious breath is a choice. When you change your breath, you change your state. When you deepen your breath, you deepen your access. And when you combine breath with awareness, something begins to stir. You've felt it. That buzzing, that tingling, that sudden shift where thought gives way to something older, quieter, wiser. That's not imagination. That's energy moving. Your breath is the pump. Your body is the circuit. And the third eye is the receiver. The pineal gland is activated when your body is in coherence. That means your breath, spine, nervous system, and intention must move as one. Now look at your spine, not as bone. As conduit. The ancients described it as the Sushumna Nadi, the central energy channel, kundalini, the coiled force at the base of your spine. Dormant until called. And when it rises, it doesn't just bring energy. It brings sight. That energy climbs vertebra by vertebra until it reaches the brain. And if the pineal is clear, it receives. Modern science is beginning to confirm what the mystics always said. That spinal fluid carries charged particles. That breath and posture influence its flow. That focused breathing alters the electromagnetic state of your nervous system. And that deep states of meditation, especially when breath is involved, light up the pineal gland like a cosmic beacon. You are not imagining this. You are activating this. And now we come to posture. When your spine is straight, not stiff, but aligned, energy moves. When your shoulders are soft and your chest open, breath deepens. And when your chin is tucked ever so slightly, the pineal sits in the perfect angle to receive the flow. It's not about discipline. It's about design. Think of your body as a temple, a living pyramid. The base is the pelvis, the sides are the breath, and at the peak sits your third eye. But none of this works if you are disconnected from your body. And modern life is engineered for exactly that. Chairs that collapse the spine, screens that pull your head forward, phones that bend the neck and dim the breath. And then we wonder why we feel lost, scattered, unclear. You're not unspiritual. You're disaligned. And the solution is not escape. It's integration, because the third eye doesn't just open in stillness. It opens in embodiment. You were born with everything you need: a breath, a spine, a gland, and the will to remember. Now, let's bring them together. The spinal breath circuit. This is a full-body awakening ritual to align the spine, breath, and pineal gland. 1. Posture of power. Sit upright, cross-legged or on a chair, spine tall, shoulders relaxed, chin slightly tucked. Imagine a golden thread lifting the crown of your head. 2. Root to crown breath. Inhale slowly through the nose. As you breathe in, imagine energy rising from the base of your spine to your third eye. Hold gently at the top. Feel pressure at the forehead or crown. Exhale slowly through the mouth, imagining the energy settling into the center of your brain. Repeat for 11 breaths. Each inhale draws energy up. Each exhale anchors it in awareness. 3. Circuit lock, optional. Advanced. On your final inhale, perform a light banda or muscular lock. Gently squeeze the pelvic floor. Pull the lower belly in. Slightly contract the throat. This creates a magnetic seal that draws energy upward. Hold for 3 to 5 seconds, then release slowly. 4. Observe the shift. Close your eyes. Let the breath return to normal. Keep awareness on the space behind the eyes. Feel, notice, receive. Do this daily, especially before sleep or meditation. It is not force, it is permission. Your body remembers how to see. You do not need new beliefs. You need a new alignment. The breath is not just air, it is intention. The spine is not just structure, it is signal. The body is not just flesh. It is frequency. You are not ascending out of the body. You are descending into it, deeper, clearer, more awake than ever. The kingdom was never in the clouds. It was in your chest, your skull, your spine. And the more you listen, the more you'll hear what's always been there. You are not just consciousness. You are the temple of it. Lesson 8. The vision that changes everything. When the third eye begins to open, it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And the whisper is not in words. It's in recognition. Something feels different but familiar. You begin to notice the world isn't quite what it was. Not because it changed, but because you did. This is the moment most people miss. They wait for visions, for mystical downloads, for psychic revelations. But the true awakening of the third eye is far more subtle and far more permanent. It begins with patterns. Coincidences too precise to be random. Moments that feel scripted by something deeper. You think of someone, and they call. You feel a pull to walk a different path and find exactly what you weren't looking for. Synchronicity becomes your new language. It continues with a deepening silence, a softening of the noise. You scroll through news, conversations, distractions, and they no longer hold the same weight. They feel shallow. Not wrong, just empty. Your nervous system begins to reject what once entertained it. You crave quiet, trees, eyes that hold truth. And in that quiet, the eye sees, not outward, inward. You begin to read people's energy, not their words. You feel the tone behind what's spoken. You sense discomfort before it's confessed. You know things without knowing why you know them. And this knowing, this inner vision, it doesn't come from thought. It rises from below the surface. It isn't forced. It's remembered. You're not gaining something new. You're remembering what was always there. The third eye doesn't give you new eyes. It cleans the lens you forgot you were looking through. And then comes the shift. It isn't dramatic. It's inarguable. You begin to feel like a stranger in a world you used to call home. Not because you're broken, but because now you see the cracks. You see how people move in loops. How society repeats the same wounds with new faces. How systems don't serve growth, but distraction. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You see the illusion. And the illusion starts to dissolve. But this is also where the path becomes hard. Because seeing clearly can be painful. The jokes that once made you laugh feel empty. The goals you chased feel artificial. The people you followed feel asleep. And yet, you're not bitter. You're not better. You're simply aware. This is what awakening feels like. Clarity without arrogance. Distance without judgment. Depth without despair. Because when the third eye truly opens, you don't become separate from the world. You become compassionate toward it. You begin to recognize that everyone is dreaming. And some are just not ready to wake up yet. And that's okay. Because this eye doesn't just see the illusion. It sees through it. You begin to notice the hidden harmony, the sacred geometry in chaos, the quiet intelligence in grief, the divine lesson inside the loss. You no longer label things as good or bad. You ask, what is this teaching me? What is this mirroring in me? What does this pattern want me to see? That is true vision. Not sight, insight. The third eye doesn't give you power over others. It gives you power over illusion. And once you stop reacting to illusions, you become free. Free from validation. Free from noise. Free from the need to be understood. Because understanding yourself becomes enough. You trust your sense of truth, even if no one else sees it. You follow your intuition, even when it leads you away from comfort. You listen to silence, even when the world screams. And here's the gift. You begin to feel guided. You don't need signs from the sky. You become the sign. Your own life becomes sacred scripture. And yes, people may not understand you. Yes, you may walk alone at times, but what you gain in solitude is sovereignty. You see clearly, and in that clarity, you return to yourself. The seeing ritual, nightly practice, every evening. Before you sleep, perform this sacred reflection. 1. Dim the lights. No screens. Just silence. 2. Sit or lie with your eyes closed. One hand gently resting on your heart, the other lightly on your forehead. 3. Ask inwardly, what did I see today that I usually miss? What felt like a message? Where did I ignore my knowing? Where did I trust it? Let the answers rise. Don't force. Don't analyze, just receive. Then say quietly, I am seeing. I am listening. I am remembering. Sleep with intention. Let the third eye work as you dream. Over time, this ritual sharpens your inner sight, not into fantasy, but into truth. You were never blind. You were blurred. And now the vision is returning. Not as prophecy, but as presence. This is not the end of awakening. It is the beginning of living differently. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to illuminate it, and that illumination begins in you. Conclusion. You were born to see. You were never meant to live in darkness. You were never meant to be blind to truth. You were born with eyes that go beyond sight, not just to see the world, but to read it, to feel its language, to awaken to its hidden code. They told you to trust the surface. They taught you to follow the map. But the map was someone else's version of reality, and you were never here to follow. You were here to remember. Remember what? That perception is power. That clarity is rebellion. That your inner knowing was never irrational, it was inconvenient. You were taught to see with your eyes. But your soul has always seen with something deeper. That pulse behind your forehead. That pressure in silence. That hum when you close your eyes and everything makes sense without words. That is the third eye. Not as fantasy, but as design. They told you it was a myth. Because if you could see clearly, you'd stop agreeing with illusion. You'd stop chasing meaning and start being meaning. You'd stop seeking truth outside you and start living it from within. Because once your vision is restored, the lies no longer land. The distractions lose their flavor. The noise begins to fade, and what's left is you, real, whole, awakened, unshaken. You begin to trust your silence more than their slogans. You begin to walk without needing validation. You begin to feel that calm, powerful presence within your breath and bones. And you know, this is what I was born for. Not a title, not a performance, but presence, clarity, alignment. You are not here to convince the world. You are here to see it. And in seeing it clearly, you free it. Because awakened eyes do not fear. They do not obey blindly. They do not wait for permission to feel truth. They become the signal. And now, you are the signal. You are the quiet revolution. The remembering ripple. The clarity in a sea of confusion. And when you walk like that, with vision restored and inner authority reclaimed, you don't just live. You illuminate. Final call to action. Every day, choose to see through the lens that cannot be sold to. You, every moment, choose to align with what your soul feels, not just what your mind was taught. Because once you trust your third eye, you will see not just the world, but yourself for the first time. And once you see, you never go blind again.